with that, we'll turn it over to Jody Moore.
When Esterly was reading that bio and she mentioned Oscar, I was like, ooh, about that. So I had to update it. All right. Thank you so much. So, okay. What we're going to do today is going to be interactive because you already heard me talk for long enough. I'm going to need your participation today to make this session really valuable for you. So just get ready to either volunteer or be voluntold, either way. And so the first thing I want to do is I want to just talk to all of us about the lens through which we see the world. All of us think that we're just observing what's true in the world around us. We're observing people and places and events, and we think we're just taking in information. But what we're really doing is taking in information and then filtering it through the lens that we all have on, the lenses, and then giving it meaning in our minds. So I need my first volunteer who feels like doing a little experiment with me with some funny glasses. Who said that? Yeah, I love it. Come on up. Thank you. I love it. Okay, give me your notebook for a minute. We got to set that aside. All right. Yep, you got to take off those glasses. All right. Now these glasses flip everything that you see vertically and horizontally. Okay? So it's going to be kind of cool. Now, how are you at dot to dots?
I work with people who have dementia, so I'm good.
Okay, good. Tell me your name.
I'm Wendy.
Wendy. Okay, so Wendy's going to nail this. So what I'm going to ask you to do is the dot to dot. But first, come on over here. I need you to put on these glasses. And all you're going to do is put them on and connect the dots. Okay? So, here's the pen. Okay, here's the pen right here. It's right here. Okay. Okay, you got it? Okay. Go ahead. Dot to dot time. Do you see she's trying to find the one right now? Close. No. You got this. Uh-oh, Wendy. Okay, it's all good. I like it. Artistic impression at the end. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. You can take those off. All right. Did you guys see Wendy's beautiful work up here? Okay. I mean, that's hard, right? That's hard. Does anybody else think they could do a better job than Wendy? No offense. You did a beautiful job. Anybody else want to give it a try?
Oh, come on.
Yes, come on up. I mean, just for fun, you know? Thanks, Wendy. Beautiful job. Okay, now why don't we have you start at like the 3 where Wendy kind of went on her own path? Come on over here. Wait. Okay. Okay, here we go. Jana. I know Jana. She gave me Reese's peanut butter cups today. Okay. Okay, you ready, Jana? Here's the pen. Okay. There you go. Other side of the pen. Yeah, there we go. She's really thinking hard about it. It's not helping, I hate to tell you.
My head won't go the way that this is going. Wait.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. You made it to the 4. Good job. Yes. Ooh, Jana. Oh, whoa. There you go. Just make it to 7. You can do it. Come on. Yay! Okay, 7. We're going to call it good there. Beautiful. Thank you so much. They're kind of fun, right? My kids love these. Okay, so notice everybody trying to compensate for it in their brains, right? And trying to think through it, and it's really, really hard to do. The gentleman who invented these, by the way, wore them for after 7 days. Oh, they're going to melt. After 7 days, he compensated for it in his brain. And then he had to take them off and recompensate for it 7 days later. So our brains are actually very, what we call neuroplastic, right? And they can adjust to accommodate whatever we need to. But my point is the amount of distortion that's happening between what we take in the world and what's actually just true is beyond what any of us, I think, even realize, myself included. And that's just good to know because we can't possibly take off the lens altogether. We're always going to filter things through a lens, and it's really useful in a lot of ways. It helps us make predictions and make smart decisions and things. But there are times when the lens needs to be adjusted or monitored a little bit. And that's what I want to teach you a little bit about here today. So I'm going to erase this beautiful dot to dot. And we're going to do, I'm trying to think if I should, I'm not going to be using that screen. So I'm wondering if we can just shut that off. Do we know how? Or pull it up. And I want to move this to the center so people can see it better. Come on, you got this. Or we can leave it on. I just didn't want to be. I don't think it. Maybe it's fine. It's not my eyes. Okay, can you guys see this better here? Yeah. Okay. No, you're good. You're good. You're good. She told me to tell if I need anything, so I'm just putting her to the test now. I'm like, how are your tech support skills? Okay, so there's a model which I've taught in my book extensively, but we're going to do some real-life examples of it today. And I'm going to do just a quick run-through of it for those who may not be familiar, because this has been, for me, the best tool I have to realize when I have a lens that's distorting things that may or may not be serving me in the end. Okay, so the model consists of 4 parts. The first part is the circumstance, and the second part is the thought. I want to talk about these two together. So the circumstances are the facts of any given situation. And one of the first things that I do when I coach people is we just separate out circumstances from thoughts. Because our thoughts are like the lenses that we're wearing. They're the glasses we've put on. They're the meaning that we give to circumstances, whether they're good or bad or dangerous, or whether we even pay attention to them. Are they even relevant in our lives? And circumstances, on the other hand, are just the facts. The really boring, neutral facts that everyone would agree on, that we can prove hands down in a court of law. And there's nothing really very interesting about facts. They are neutral until we think thoughts about them. Okay, so we are sitting in a room in the Riverwoods Conference Center. Would be a circumstance or a fact. This is a beautiful room. It feels really nice and cozy in here. There's a cozy fireplace that feels really good. Or, I don't like this room. It's outdated. What's with the wallpaper? I happen to love this room. But those are all thoughts, right? We filter everything through our thinking. Now, our thinking is what's creating our feelings. Feelings. Stay with me. Feelings are one word: happy, sad, glad, mad, anxious, excited, proud, discouraged, frustrated. These are all feelings, right? And they are literal chemical reactions happening in the body when our brain directs the body to release those chemicals or hormones. Certain feelings feel really good, like adrenaline and dopamine, and others we say don't feel good, right? Like cortisol. Those chemicals are meant to drive us towards what will serve us and away from what won't. I talked a little bit about the motivational triad. That's the problem, is if we're just constantly avoiding anything bad and only going towards good, we end up drug addicts on the couch watching Netflix, right? In today's world. So we have to monitor ourselves, but that's the original idea behind a feeling. Now, we tend to give credit for our feelings to our circumstances, but our circumstances do not create our feelings. Our thinking creates our feelings. Okay? Now, there are exceptions. There are chemical and hormonal imbalances that happen that sometimes require medication and other kinds of intervention. But most of the time, it is your thinking creating your feelings. And even if somebody does have an imbalance of some sort that needs more clinical treatment, understanding that you can direct your thinking is really important. We wouldn't send someone to the doctor for a broken arm and not teach them about basic nutrition and getting enough sleep and getting a little exercise every now and then, right? That's what we're talking about here, is maintenance and taking care of yourself emotionally. Okay, so those feelings then become the fuel for our actions, which are creating, in the end, our results. So our actions are the things that we do or don't do, and how we do it, how we show up, whether or not we make eye contact or whether we avoid, whether we're kind or pretending or lying or really open and vulnerable, whether or not we actually go pursue our goals or we just think about it and keep listening to podcasts about it. Those are all actions, and they're driven by our feelings. So we want to choose the most useful fuel for our actions, because the thought, feeling, and result in the end, thought, feeling, action is what's creating our results. So I like to do it like this now, where we want to attribute our results to our own thinking, feeling, and behaving, not to circumstances, because circumstances are often not in our control. Other people are circumstances, what they do or say or think, all a circumstance, right? So let's say my daughter is stressed out about school. I say things to my friends like, I'm just so worried about my daughter. She's so stressed. As though my daughter's stress is causing me stress. But it's not. I'm causing stress by thinking my daughter shouldn't be stressed. Right? And then the way I show up around my daughter, what I say to her, or whether or not we even bring it up, or if I avoid her, is all based on that feeling of stress. I don't do my best parenting from stress. I do my best passive-aggressive manipulating from stress. But parenting, to me, is something different. And that is creating my result, whether or not I'm being the mom I want to be, whether or not I'm creating the relationships I want. I can't control my daughter's results, but I can control mine. I can control whether or not I'm panicked about my daughter. I will still try to control her at times, don't get me wrong. But when it doesn't work, then I go back to like, wait a second, I think I need to just control my stress and not hers. Okay, so that was like a quick summary of the book I published. But what I want to do is real examples of this, because that's where it really makes a difference. Is I can tell you my examples all day, but they're boring. Your examples are so much better. So if I would love a volunteer who has something going on in your life, something that's not perfect or ideal, that we could put into a model. Or a goal you want to achieve. Yes. I'm going to give you the mic. I'm going to yell. You guys can hear me in the back now.
Blending a family.
Blending a family. Okay, say more. Tell me the facts. What's hard about it?
All the kids don't want to get along.
That's a fact. I am with you there. Wanting the kids to get along, you said?
Facts are, half moved. Another fact is two of the kids were relocated. And those same two kids are only in the home half the time.
Two kids relocated in the home half the time. What is your thought about that?
I think my thought is they struggle to feel like they belong. Thomas.
Two kids were relocated and they're in the home half the time. I think the way he said it was, they're in the home, they're only in the home half the time. Notice I took the word only out, because when you go to get your circumstance line, you want to make it really neutral and boring. Like, you don't want any sensational TV shows that are Hulu or anything, okay? So we're just two kids relocated in the home half the time. Your thought is they struggle, I would say they struggle to feel included or
Like they belong.
belong. They struggle to feel like they belong. Yeah, this morning I spelled pause wellness. Number one, actually, yeah, that's wellness. And figure out why my email doesn't go through the check that. So just forewarn the check that. Okay. So this is your thought. They struggle to feel like they belong. Now, how do you feel, Thomas, when you think this thought?
Stresses me out.
Okay. Now, tell me why you're stressed.
Because what parent doesn't want their kids to feel happy like they belong?
Okay. You guys know why Thomas is stressed? He thinks he's stressed because of these two kids. He loves these kids. He's observing them. He has reasons why he thinks they're stressed. He has goggles on that make him see the world a certain way. He's not crazy about it. Like, it's all valid and legitimate. He can tell us what the kids have said, what they've done, what they're experiencing, what emotions he senses they might be feeling. And he has a reason why he believes this to be true. It is true. It's also just a thought, just a sentence. It's also not true. Like, in some ways you could prove it not true. You can find examples. But it doesn't matter. We're allowed to have thoughts. Thoughts are good. They're not bad. We're just creating for Thomas a feeling of stress. Now, tell me how you behave with these two kids when you're stressed. Do or not do? Have you tried anything to help them?
Try to help them see the positive of the situation.
Okay, good. How's that working?
I think it works part of the time. I think other mental health struggles are a barrier.
Yeah. There's nothing wrong with this behavior, right? What else do you do or not do? Oh, sure. I'll just repeat what Thomas says, and I'll say it on the mic. Okay, what else do you do or not do, Thomas, when you're stressed? So I want you to, you know what will make it easier? Can you think of a specific example of something that's happened? Like a time when one of them was struggling or said something? Friends, okay. Yeah. Okay, so he said his 16-year-old feels like she's just not making friends. Everything's falling. You used the word falling apart several times. So now she doesn't want to. We could put her model up here, right? She feels like she's not making friends, so she's discouraged, and then it makes her not want to go out and make friends in her action line. And the result is she'll continue to not have friends, right? But as her dad, she tells you, or her dad or stepdad or whatever the situation is, right? She tells you this, right? And then you feel stressed. And when we're stressed as parents, we try to fix it, right? Have you tried to fix it? Yeah. I mean, that's what I do. I'm like, listen, daughter, good news. I'm 50. I know how to make friends. Or we offer words of encouragement. Now, these are not terrible things that Thomas is doing by any means. It's just that Thomas is in a situation, which I end up in a lot of times myself, that's why I know it so well, where I'm still stressed is his result. I see how I spelled it. I need to get my daughter feeling better so that I can feel better. It's not my best parenting. It's not bad. It's not doing anything wrong or right. It's just not very effective because it could be true that your daughter actually knows the way through this challenge better than you or I. Right? Do you think that's true? He's like, I don't know. She's only 16. You should meet her. The world is always falling down around her. Huh. Interesting. When we have someone who has a pattern of struggle, right? And I don't worry, I'm right there with you, Thomas. I'm like, I will save you. I know that I do this with my sister and my mother and like everyone. I just want to help them because it sounds so lovely, right? I just want to help people. I just want my daughter not to be stressed. I just want to help people out. The problem is the reason she's struggling is because of whatever's going on for herself, her own internal battle, and the way she's going to evolve into a version of her that knows how to handle that is to struggle longer. And we jump in and try to remove the struggle. There's books about this now and podcasts about this, the coddling of the American mind and everything else about how we are way too good at removing the struggle. We have way too many ways to rescue people from pain. And therefore, they don't evolve through what struggle and pain does. Possibly, anyway. Okay? So I just want to point out to you that this is not fixing it for your daughter. Again, I think some of this behavior is helpful. I want you to still talk to your daughter. I want you to still offer her your thoughts. I just don't want you to be stressed while you do it. I don't want you to wait for your kids to feel better, for you to feel better. Because it will, I promise you will be, you're already, it sounds like an amazing dad. But you'll be even better if you're not operating from stress. If you're operating from peace and confidence, you'll be even more amazing. Do you think that's true? Okay. I do. That's what we're going to do now. I'm going to help you, okay? You have to choose. You can choose, I should say. You don't have to do anything. But you could choose to stop thinking, my kids are struggling. They're having a hard time fitting in. Did you know that you could still believe it's true? And just decide, that's it. I'm not going to walk around focusing on that anymore. Because there's no upside. Because, it's also true that children are dying right now somewhere in the world. It's awful when I think about it. But if we thought about everything that was true, we would just have to sit in our houses and curl up in a ball and cry and sob. Because there's a lot of good things that are true, but there's a lot of terrible things that are true. It doesn't serve me to walk around thinking about that right now unless I'm going to go join a cause or raise money to support children, abused children or something, right? So even with our own kids, thinking the thought they're struggling to fit in is not serving you right now. And you're allowed to focus on something different. So sometimes it's just a redirect, but for me with my kids, what I have to remind myself is it's okay for them to struggle. It's actually part of life. It's how they're going to evolve and grow. And it's just emotion in the end. All it is emotion that she's experiencing. Now, Thomas, when I say to you, it's okay for your daughter to struggle. Maybe even she needs to struggle right now. She actually likes to struggle, I hate to tell you, from what you told me about her. Struggle just feels like normal to her. So she wants to struggle right now. Do you believe that? Because I can tell your wife does. She's like, she likes to. And it's okay. She's 16. She's figuring out who she's going to be and how life's going to go. So she just needs to struggle. Right? On some level. How do you feel when you think that? Why? But what if you did want her to struggle? He said it hurts because we don't want our kids to struggle. But what if you did? I can see his brain being like, wait, what? He's like, but I don't. Yeah, because let's change the circumstance. That's what our brains are like. You know what we need to do? Just change the circumstance. Yeah. Yes. Yes. It doesn't mean you don't have compassion, by the way, you guys. I just want to give you permission right now to go, you know what? She needs to struggle. And you can still have compassion. But instead of going, you know what, sweetie, let's focus on the positive and let me to, or sometimes we change circumstances. That's fine. But often that doesn't work, like you said. Her same brain is going to go with her to any school in any neighborhood, right? And so, like, literally, what if you wanted her to struggle? Because she is. At least in your mind, she is. Byron Katie taught me this. She says, when you argue with reality, you lose, but only every time. So when I notice myself arguing with reality, when I'm like, but I don't want my kid to struggle, I know because I've run my own models enough times that that's not a useful way to think about it. Like, I'll try. Sometimes there's an easy way to solve it. Like with little kids, it's a little easier, right? When my daughter's like, I don't want to go to the dentist. And I'm like, but you can get ice cream after. She's like, okay. I'm like, that was easy. Great. I'm all for easy. But a lot of times it's not that easy. As they get older, it's not that easy, right? So instead, I'm just like, she is supposed to struggle. I want her to struggle if she wants to struggle. And clearly she does. So it's okay. She needs to struggle. Maybe this is part of her journey. Maybe she was supposed to go through the end of one marriage and the start of a new one and a blended family and moving and being relocated. And like, I'm not arguing that these can be challenging things. We can still have compassion. This is hard, sweetie. And it's okay that you're struggling. That's what happens in your A-line. Well, first of all, how do you feel when you think this thought? She needs to struggle. You said you feel sad, but only because you don't believe this thought. But so we can find a different one that you believe. But if you were just like, because part of you does believe it. I saw it for a minute there. He's like, I love Thomas so much right now. He's like, struggle promotes growth. You have to grow. I know the right answers. But your dad heart is hurting, right? So I want to offer to you that you actually need to struggle too. And that it's okay that you feel pain. It doesn't mean you shouldn't feel pain when you see your kids feeling pain. You're going to feel pain, but that's the clean pain. That's the kind of pain that you got to like, it's okay to cry. It's all okay. But if you let yourself struggle, it's okay for her to struggle and it's okay for me to struggle, then we get to like kind of a peace. There's still pain there, but there's pain with peace instead of pain with more struggle on top of the struggle. Okay? And then what you offer is just compassion. Gosh, honey, when she comes home going, none of the girls like me and I'm trying to make friends and they won't include me and that's it. I'm not going to anything ever again. Instead of jumping in trying to solve it, maybe we just try, that sounds so hard. I love you. Let's have a hug. Let's get ice cream. Is there anything I can do to help? What do you think you're going to do? This was a hard lesson for me to learn. I think I have all the right answers. I'm like, I know what you should do. Say this, try this, go to this thing. And what I finally learned is that doesn't work because she knows what she should do, but I don't. I know what I would do, but I actually don't know what she should do. So I have to go, what do you think you're going to do? In my head, I'm like, I hope she says numbers 1 through 10 that I know she should do. But so compassion, putting faith in them that they can find their way through the struggle. And in the end, compassion for yourself as well, right? And allowing, another thing I want to add here is we have to allow feelings. Feelings are fine. And there's less struggle for you and for her. Ironically, isn't that crazy? From the thought, it's okay that she's struggling, she's supposed to struggle, it's okay that I'm struggling, we actually have less struggle than from the thought, no, I wish she wasn't struggling. When I say this, I know you guys have experienced this in real life because I see you going, yep, like life teaches us this over and over. But that's the power of taking off the glasses for just a minute and deciding which ones am I going to put on. Okay? Thomas, thank you for volunteering. Very helpful. Let's give Thomas a hand. Okay. Who else has a situation that's not perfect or a goal or a habit you're trying to change? Like there is literally, the title of my workshop was something like, I can't remember, how to solve any problem or something. The 5-part solution to any problem. Any problem. You got one right here in the front? Yes. Your husband. Yeah, it's me. Hi. Okay. Tell me your name again. Kyle. Kyle, tell us your problem. No. Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay. Tell me more, Kyle. Okay, so Kyle just said business reimbursements don't come in a timely you don't turn them in? He doesn't turn in like all the receipts and the form you're supposed to fill out. Is that what we're talking about? I've worked in corporate too. You have to fill out this big long report and say how far you drove and what you spent money on and turn in your receipts. Then they reimburse you the money. And if you don't turn that in on time, you don't get the reimbursement on time, or maybe you don't get it ever if you're too late. And then the spouse doesn't like that. She's like, "Where's our money?" Am I getting this right? Okay. This is the situation. She's like, "You nailed it." Okay. So Kyle, tell me why. We're going to start in Kyle's action line. Because are you telling me that you're just not turning them in on time? I know. He wants to. Of course you want to. Pretend she's not here. According to her. What's on time, wife? No, this is you. She has to be the silent observer unless I call on her. That's the rule. Okay, so we've got to have them in by the 4th, or we have to make a payment on the card before we get the reimbursement. Yeah. Is this really a problem, Kyle? Tell me the truth. Pretend she's not here. It's not actually a problem. Like, he gets it in. It's just like not by the 4th, and then he has to make a payment out of pocket, but then we get the reimbursement and we pay it back. We're not losing any money here. Are we paying any interest that we wouldn't pay if we got him in on time? So we're losing a little bit of money in interest. But here's the truth. What you're doing is buying whatever interest you're paying. That money is buying you the convenience of doing it when you want. That's what you're paying for. So, like, I love how she's like, but she buys. I'm a marriage counselor too. Okay, so she buys like really cute earrings, and he buys a little bit of time and convenience to do the expense report when he wants. Okay, but for Kyle, the reason I'm really diving in here, because you start with your action line sometimes when you notice, like, I'm not doing this thing that he's like, I want to do it. I mean, I want to, right, honey? Yeah, I want to. But when we really dive in, like I talked about, your relationship with your past self, if you asked past Kyle, hey, what's going on? Why are we not turning these in by the 4th? It sounds like he's like, it's not really a big deal. It's a little bit of interest. We're fine. I kind of just want to be able to do it when I can get to it. I'm busy, and I get to it eventually. It's not a big problem. That's the truth, is that that's what he thought. Until what? Did you hear that? He said, till a couple nights ago. When she told you that you were wrong. I can see it her way, too. You want me to make her case? No. Yeah. Yeah, well, she should read it again, because I'm teasing. Okay, no, you guys are both awesome. I'm just giving you a hard time. Okay, so you don't turn these in on time. So what we want to do, what I actually just did here with Kyle, let me break it down for you, is I examined what's happening up here and what's happening up here. Okay, So the circumstance, we're just going to make it the expense report. And we'll just go ahead and add the due date, although whose due date is that? Who set the due date? Is it your company? The card statement, for the payment on the card is due on the 4th. By the 4th, we got to make a payment. Okay, so we're making that the circumstance. It's just the facts. It's totally boring. We have an expense report to turn in. We have money owed on the credit card. We have a credit card payment, at least minimum payment we got to make on the 4th. Totally neutral facts, right? Kyle and his lovely wife, remind me your name, Andrea, have two different thoughts about this. Andrea has a thought, we get it in by the 4th, and then we have the payment and we don't have to worry about it. And Kyle has a thought, we'll get it in maybe by the 4th or maybe a little after. It's fine either way. I mean, which 4th are we talking about? Okay, but then, so this is the model you've been operating from, Kyle. And then you feel like somewhat, let's call it, I don't know, complacent. And by the way, it's so funny how we all say we don't want to be stressed. But stress is actually really useful. If he was stressed about it, like Andrea's stressed about it, so she'd get it done. Stress causes you to hyper-focus and not put things off. And so stress in and of itself is not bad. Resisting stress is the real problem. So you can check out, there's a whole TED Talk and a book on that. But yeah, in the back. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But also Andrea has a valid point. They both do. Yeah. Yeah, totally. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it's a totally valid point. What I want to just make sure and reiterate here is that, like, you're right. He has a totally valid reason for all this, and he's like, no, I don't. But also, Andrea has a valid point too. Like, he's got to do it eventually anyway. So you do 2 hours before, or you do 2 hours later, and like, we can get into a whole thing. One of the things that I do as a coach is we really want to stay in the client's head. Okay, and not get into like he said, she said, because I could also coach Andrea on this and it would be a totally different approach because I want to help Kyle get to peace and I want to help Andrea get to peace. And at some point we have to make some compromises, but you're right. He's not wrong about this and neither is Andrea. They're both right, okay? So if he feels complacent, then he puts it off and he turns them in late, right? And then he gets expensed, but later. So that would be your result, okay? Now, the reason this has changed is because something came into your awareness 2 nights ago about how much it bothers your wife, right? And so now what I'm going to do, because we can play with this model in a lot of ways, so I think this will be kind of fun to show you guys, because it's like more advanced than what I could put in a 250-page book for some reason. But anyway, you can take that same action and put it in your circumstance line. Like, yeah, definitely. So expense report turned in after the 4th, right? We got to make it really factual, so I wouldn't say late, because that's kind of subjective, but whatever date you could put it was turned in on the 10th or whatever, but after the 4th, expense report was turned in. And your new thought is something like, this really bothers my wife, so I should probably do something about it. Is that right? Oh. Tell me about that part. What do you mean you made it a horrible thing? He said I made it this horrible thing. You've made the expense report a terrible thing? And you feel bad for not turning it in? Okay. So he's feeling bad. Now, this is interesting, you guys, because this is what we do to our spouses. Not on purpose, but sometimes when we just share our desires, then they feel bad. And so now it feels like eating the frog, he said, which comes from that book, right? Like he really thinks about that expense report and feels terrible. And we already established, like we heard, how painful and long and tedious expense reports are. So do you think this is going to make him, in his action line, more likely or less likely to do it on time? Less likely. History would agree, he says. I mean, we all would agree with that, right? When we're like, I should stop eating donuts because I'm getting fat. I feel bad that I just called myself fat and now I really want to eat a donut to feel better. Or I should stop yelling at my kids because I'm a terrible mom. Now I feel bad, and then my kids do what kids do, and I lose my patience a lot faster because I already felt bad before they even acted like kids. Do you see what happens here? This is what I talked about this morning. The way you talk about your past self going, I hate expense reports, I feel bad that I've stressed out my wife, I should just get them in on time, and now you feel dread, and you feel guilt, and you feel shame, and that's going to make it even harder to do something as tedious as an expense report. Yeah. So it's not, it may or may not, sometimes we will power through this. We have the ability to do that. But it'll either not get done on time, or it'll become an even more painful part of your life. Okay, so here's the alternative in this model, you guys. We're going to keep the circumstance the same. This is the way I always do it. Again, I did lots of examples of this in the book, but this is how you do it in your real life. You just separate out facts from thoughts, and you take a look at your model, and you pause and show your brain, hey, brain, I know you think it's really useful to beat yourself up and feel bad about this, and I know you think that it's a terrible, big, eating the frog type of task, but that's just goggles that you're wearing. And we're going to take them off and try some different goggles, because we can't go without goggles, but we can put some different ones on for just a moment. And the most important part is that this isn't helping you. This isn't making your marriage better. I promise it's not bringing you closer to Andrea, even though you're like, I feel bad that I made you stressed. It's still not going to make you a better husband, because at some point we jump out of shame into blame. Shame doesn't feel good, so then we start blaming. Then we go back to shame. Then we go back to blame. Then we wonder, why do we hate each other and ourselves? I don't know. That's why. Okay? So this is not serving you, and it's not getting your expense report done. So we're just going to set it aside and be like, okay, that's enough of that. Let's start in your feeling line. So you in the past, you have turned your expense reports in after the 4th of the month. How do you want to feel about that, Kyle? Yeah, did you hear that? I said, how do you want to feel about it? And he was like, what? As though it never occurred to him that that was an option, that I could feel however I want about it? Shouldn't I feel bad about it? How do you want to feel about it? Okay, I'm going to add to your C line that wife doesn't like it. That's part of the circumstance. She doesn't like it. I know. He's like, I'd rather just change the circumstance. But we're not doing that yet. First, we're going to keep the circumstance the same. I didn't turn it in on time. My wife doesn't like it. I stressed her out. How do you want to feel about that? Okay, so let me just help you out, because we have how many minutes? 2. 1 minute. Okay, so it is not useful for you to feel bad about it. And feeling good about it, or at least more neutral about it, doesn't mean you don't have to change it. You're much more likely to change it from a more useful emotion, I should say. My book is better than happy. It's not just about feeling happy all the time. It's just choosing what is the most useful emotion. So if we want our action line to be that we just get it done, and wouldn't you like it to be as easy and painless as possible? Yeah, that's the result we want. Let's just say. I'm going to make that your result, okay? Stay with me. I don't have time to fix it. Then the action line is going to be doing it. and dropping the drama around it, because you have lots of drama about it. So I would recommend you try a thought like, this is not a big deal. This is not a big, even my wife being upset, not a big deal. Good to know. I'm glad to know she feels that way because now I can do something about it. But I don't have to make it mean I'm a terrible person. What's the matter with me? Why didn't I do this? I can't believe I made her feel bad. Like, okay, not a big deal. Got it. I will, from now on, I do it on the second, and then I have a 1-day cushion. Not a big deal. And then you can free yourself of the guilt and shame. It's totally fine that you didn't do it in the past. You can still do it in the future, right? You see what I'm saying? Okay, you guys. I wish I had all day because we could do this all day, but I don't. So thank you to Kyle. Let's give Kyle and Andrea a hand, both of you, and to Thomas. And thank you to all of you. And I think I'm out of time, yeah? Okay, amen.